The desert wind carried more than just dust that morning. It carried silence too, the kind that presses against your chest and makes your soul pause. Calder Boone, a quiet rancher in his late 30s, rode his mule along a dry gulch on the edge of Apache territory. The trail was old, barely used, and wrapped in legends too cruel to repeat aloud. If this story grips your heart and reminds you that even in the harshest corners of the frontier, love can rise from ashes, don't forget to subscribe to Wild Western Tales for more unforgettable journeys, where bullets missed, but hearts didn't. Click the bell so you never miss a heartbeat from the Wild West. Calder wasn't a man of stories. He was a man of silence, of habits. Feed the cattle, repair the roof, avoid the past. But that day, as the sun dragged shadows across red stone, he saw something that stopped him cold. She hung beneath an ancient cottonwood tree, wrists tied high with rough twine, her toes barely brushing the cracked earth. A crude wooden sign swung above her head, the letters slashed in angry red. "White man don't forgive." His mule let out a soft snort. Uneasy, Calder dismounted slowly, his rifle slung but untouched. The girl was young, barely more than 17. Her skin was sun-darkened, her black hair tangled with blood and dust. Her chest moved, barely, rising and falling in shallow breaths. He looked up at the sign again. It wasn't just a warning, it was a sentence. "God help me," he whispered. He pulled his hunting knife, its edge dulled from years of fence work and hide skinning. With one stroke, he cut her down. She collapsed into his arms like a rag soaked in heat and pain. Her lips were cracked, her wrists were raw, but her eyes opened, just barely, dark, wild, and burning with something he couldn't name. He didn't ask questions. Not yet. He wrapped her in his coat, lifted her onto the mule, and walked the rest of the way home under a sky that seemed to hold its breath. Boone Ranch was modest, a 3-room cabin with a slanted roof and a single windmill that moaned like a widow in the wind. Calder laid the girl on his own bed. He dampened a cloth, cleaned her wounds, and spooned water past her lips. She flinched at his touch but didn't fight. She didn't speak either. Days passed. She never said a word. He called her Birdie. After the way she had hung like a caged thing from that tree, she didn't nod, didn't object. He took that as permission. At night, he slept by the fire with a rifle by his side. During the day, he watched the ridgeline. He knew someone had put her there, and he knew they weren't done. Birdie began to heal. Slowly, her lips stopped cracking. Her eyes began to follow him when he moved around the room. One morning, she took the spoon from his hand and fed herself. That night, Calder sat by the window sharpening his knife when he heard her voice. Small, brittle, but certain. "Why?" He turned. She was sitting upright, the blanket wrapped tight around her shoulders. "Why'd you cut me down?" He set the knife aside. "'Cause no one deserves to die that slow. Not even a stranger." She looked away, jaw tight. "Even an Apache?" He stood, walked to the stove. "Especially an Apache." The next week passed with uneasy quiet. Birdie began to walk. She stayed in the yard, never past the fence line. Calder caught her tracing the edge of the old well with her finger, muttering words in a language he didn't know. One night, lightning split the sky. Rain hammered the roof like hooves. Calder found her curled beneath the table, eyes wide with panic. He sat beside her. Storms pass. She looked at him, tears mixing with rain. Not all of them, she told him then, in pieces. Her name was Nayeli. Her family, a small band of peaceful Apaches, had refused to leave their land when white settlers came. Soldiers arrived. Fires followed. She escaped into the hills. They caught her near Cottonwood Creek, accused her of killing a scout. They didn't hang her to execute her. They hung her as bait. Calder listened in silence. Then he stood and went to the mantel. He pulled a worn satchel from behind a loose brick. He handed her an old, folded paper, a wanted poster, a crude sketch, sharp cheekbones, wild eyes. The name? Nayeli. Reward? $100. She looked up at him. "You knew." He nodded. "The day I cut you down." Her voice was dry. "Why didn't you turn me in?" His eyes burned. "Because I don't love what they call justice out here." She stared at him, and for the first time she smiled. It was faint, but it changed the air. Peace never lasted long in the west. 3 riders appeared on the ridge at dawn. One wore blue. The other 2 wore gray dusters and faces carved from stone. Calder stepped outside, rifle in hand. The leader, a wiry man with cold eyes, lifted his hat. "Morning. Name's Prescott. We're looking for someone." Calder didn't flinch. "Ain't many someones around here." Prescott pulled a paper from his coat. "Same sketch. Same name. Dangerous Apache Girl. Escaped a week ago. Last seen near these parts." Calder looked at it, then handed it back. "Ain't seen her." Prescott nodded slowly. "That so? Funny. Trail led right to your land." The tension was thick enough to choke. Calder didn't blink. "Trail's wrong." Prescott smiled without warmth. "We'll be back." They rode off, but their shadows lingered. That night, Nayeli stood by the window watching the moon. Calder stepped beside her. "They'll come back." She nodded. "You could leave. I won't stop you." She turned, eyes fierce. "I stay. Not for safety. For truth. For you." He stared at her, heart in his throat. She stepped closer. "Do you believe I killed that scout?" He shook his head. "I believe they needed a body to blame." She touched his hand. "You saved me, Calder Boone. Not just from the rope." Their kiss was slow, like forgiveness. They planned to run south, toward Mexico. But the night before they left, Nayeli found something hidden beneath the floorboards of Calder's shed. A box wrapped in oilskin. Inside, an old military badge, Apache jewelry, a letter stained with blood. She read it, then confronted him. "You were there, weren't you?" He didn't answer. She threw the badge at his feet. "You were one of them, the night they burned my village." His jaw clenched. "I didn't light the fire. I tried to stop it. I failed. I left." She trembled. "And now you play savior?" Calder stepped forward. "I'm not saving anyone. I'm trying to atone." Nayeli turned away. Her silence shattered the room. At dawn, the ranch was quiet. The wind had gone still. Calder stood by the barn, watching the horizon. Then he saw it, smoke. Prescott had returned. Not with 3 men, with 20. They rode with rifles high and fire in their eyes. Calder ran inside. "Nayeli, get the horses." She stood in the doorway, the wind lifting her hair. In her hand was the military badge. "Are you ready to pay for the fire you didn't start?" He nodded. "With everything." She tossed him his rifle. "Then let's show them what forgiveness looks like." The first gunshot cracked through the sky, and the war for redemption began. Want to see how it ends? How far Calder and Nayeli will go to protect each other from a world that refuses to forget. Subscribe to Wild Western Tales. The air was too still. The desert wind had vanished, and in its absence, a silence pressed down like judgment. Calder leaned hard against the rock wall, crimson staining the torn fabric at his side. Lena crouched beside him, eyes wide with fear and fire. 2 riders still circled the ridge above, rifles drawn, but cautious. The narrow canyon gave Lena and Calder cover, for now. "You still with me?" she whispered, brushing the blood-soaked shirt. Calder gave the faintest nod. "Ain't dead yet. You're losing blood fast." He smiled weakly. "Wouldn't be the first time." Lena reached into the saddlebag, found the folded cloth and poured what little water they had left. She pressed it to his wound. He hissed but didn't pull away. "Stay awake," she ordered. "You've gotten bossy. You married me." He chuckled faintly, then groaned. "Bad deal for you." "No," she said quietly. "Not bad at all." Above them, a rock crumbled. A shadow shifted. One of the riders tried to lean over for a shot. Lena didn't wait. She grabbed Calder's rifle and fired. The shot rang through the canyon. The rider ducked and vanished. Silence returned. Then hooves retreated. They had scared them off for now. 2 days later, Lena stitched Calder's wound with trembling fingers. They had found a hidden camp between jagged stone arches, tucked behind thorn bushes and blessed with a trickling spring. She boiled water, ground herbs, and whispered old prayers from her grandmother's tongue. Calder never asked what the words meant. He just listened, teeth clenched, as the fever came and passed. One night, under the orange glow of their fire, she finally asked the question, "Why didn't you turn me in?" Calder stared into the flames. "Because I've seen what justice looks like when it's wearing the wrong man's face." He shifted, eyes glazed from pain and memory. "I used to wear a uniform once. Same blue they wore. The day they came for your village. I followed orders. I shut my mouth. And I told myself I didn't see what they did." Lena's breath caught. "But I did. I saw it all." He looked at her, his eyes dark and honest. "I pulled you down from that tree because I couldn't let it happen again." Lena was silent a long time. Then she said, "You never told me." "I was ashamed," he whispered. "Still am." She reached across the fire, took his hand in hers. "You're not who you were," she said. He looked up. "And neither am I." 3 weeks later, the Mustangs they rode were slow now. Calder's wound had healed, but not without cost. He limped when he dismounted. Every night, Lena wrapped his side and whispered to the desert stars. He'd fallen in love with the sound of her voice. South of the territory, near the border, they came upon a village, half Mexican, half Apache. It wasn't on any map. The people watched them with suspicion but did not raise their weapons. An elder woman approached Lena. "Tu padre era sabio," the woman said. "Your father was wise." Lena nodded. "Ayana," she whispered. "That's my true name." The elder smiled. "Then come home, Ayana." They stayed for days. Calder worked with the horses, taught the young men how to saddle quiet. Ayana, no longer Lena, worked in the healing tent. She crushed leaves, mended bones, told stories. People listened, but the world didn't forget them. One night, smoke rose from the horizon. A familiar badge glinted in the torchlight. Prescott had returned. The final showdown. Calder stood by the gate, rifle in hand. Ayana beside him, holding a bow strung with sinew and steel. Prescott dismounted. "You thought you could disappear," he sneered. "I wasn't hiding," Calder said. "I was healing. You harbor a killer. The bounty still stands." Calder stepped forward. "You come for her, you go through me." Prescott smirked. "Ain't hard to shoot a man already dying." Behind him, a dozen riders fanned out. Guns drawn, torches lit. Ayana raised her voice. "The girl you hunt is dead." Prescott scoffed. "You look alive to me." "No, the one you strung up died that day. I am Ayana of the Firebird clan. My name burned, but I am reborn." One of the riders, a younger man, lowered his rifle. "She was just a girl," he muttered. "That sign, that wasn't justice." Prescott turned. "You questioning me? I'm questioning this hunt." Another rider nodded. "We didn't ride here to kill a woman with healing hands." Prescott's face twisted. "Traitors." He raised his rifle toward Ayana. But Calder was faster. The shot rang out. Prescott collapsed, clutching his chest. Blood bloomed like a red flower on his shirt. The riders didn't move. They watched their leader fall and said nothing. Calder lowered the rifle. He was never the law. He was just hate with a badge. Weeks later, the desert was quiet again. Calder built their new home from stone and wood, near the village but tucked among trees. Ayana planted herbs, carved symbols into the beams, and painted the Firebird crest above the doorway. One morning, Calder stood at the river. He looked older now, lines on his face, silver in his beard, but there was peace in his eyes. Ayana joined him, her hand resting on her belly. He turned, and the look they shared said more than any words ever could. She was carrying their child. "I never thought I'd have a second chance," he whispered. Anna smiled. "You didn't. You made one." Inside the home, over the fireplace, hung 2 items. A worn piece of rope, cut and burned at the end, and a painting of a bird rising through flame, wings wide, fire beneath its feathers. A reminder of the day she was freed, of the man who saved her, of the fire that refused to die. If this story reminded you that even in the darkest corners of history, love can rise like flame from ash, then don't let it end here. Hit that like button, subscribe to Wild Western Tales, and share this with someone who still believes in redemption. The West remembers what we choose to keep alive.